Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bartelle's Money Talk. I am Johnny.
And I am Teresa, and I am pleading with you. If you are a business owner or if you are considering becoming a business owner, you want to stay for this entire video. You will not believe that we have a gentleman with us today. Before he turned even 19, he created $3 million, over $3 million in sales for his clients. Are you interested in making money for your business? Stay tuned. Drew, welcome to our show, and I would like for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Teresa. I really appreciate it. As you said, my name is Drew Carmichael, and quite frankly, it's a pleasure to be on this podcast and to share my story. We've definitely had some very, very busy previous few years, and growing up from a family that really just has a insane amount of, I wouldn't say drive, but I'd say sort of a will to just succeed in whatever way that is. And I've definitely chosen to succeed in business. And I'm not saying that every day's been a success, but over the last couple of years, since grade 9 at school, I've managed to generate over $300,000 for myself. And we've actually just ticked over, it's 4 million Australian dollars. Not quite sure what that converts to in the USD, but we've definitely generated over 4 million Australian dollars for our clients and running a marketing agency. So we purely believe in, and this is definitely taught from my family, in relationships with our clients and ensuring that everything that we do is in the best interest for our clients. And quite frankly, in the business world, that's just making money. So that is what we strive for.
Well, Drew, you have to tell us, okay, how long have you been 19?
All right, so I've been 19 since September. And so it's been definitely a big year, and it's not without the effort. And I think that's the biggest thing that comes down to anyone's success, is just putting in that amount of effort and not giving up when times are tough. Would you like me to go into quickly where I've sort of come from doing this work at school and then progress into here?
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Well, look, we started off in school, and by we, I mean myself and probably my 3 other different personalities. I'm not that sort of guy, but I'm a little bit crazy. And I think craziness, though, plays a bit of a part in being able to lock in and work continuously. And that's what it's come down to. In grade 9, coming out of a really interesting period of doing a bunch of tech work at school and being known as that guy that knows how to use an iPad and adjust TV screens, I decided, look, winning a competition, a national finals competition, making a robot dog was great, but it didn't earn me any money. It just earned me sort of like that pat on the back that I did a good job. And that only gets you so far, right? So after that, we had a period in Australia where shopping centers, it's the Australian version of Walmart, effectively. They were selling collectible items. And little Drew decided that he would have a great idea to try and resell these little collectible items. So every $30 or so you spend in a supermarket, little Drew was like, hey, I get a little item here and I can resell it. So I was reselling these little collectible items on eBay and eventually Facebook Marketplace. And I also tried on Amazon. Amazon comes down the line a bit though. And then at school was buying in bulk from these little collectible items from kids. They were so happy they were getting $10. I was really happy because I was getting 1,000 because our markups were just insane. And quite frankly, there was a huge amount of demand for it in Australia. From there, I bought a 3D printer and tried reselling 3D printed stuff. And at this point in time, it was a side hustle, right? And there was not any sort of automation to it, any sort of ability for me to step away and let it run because I was there messaging people on Marketplace, trying to sell it. And quite frankly, just hustling. I personally dislike that word, but just trying to make it work. And from there was this a guy in Australia who was really into Amazon FBA, and his name's Adam Hudson. And I was watching a bunch of his YouTube videos, little Drew I probably was still in grade 9 at this stage. And I was watching his YouTube videos going, gee whiz, we should have a look at Amazon. And Jeff Bezos, I think at that point he was the most wealthiest guy in the world, an American, of course. And we started up, by we, I mean myself and a Filipino VA, we started up a Amazon business dropshipping FBAing massage guns. And that was really where the money started to come in. And it just opened my eyes. At this stage, though, to put it back into perspective for you guys and people watching this podcast, it was all about, for me, just working and not giving up. And I understand that some people watching this, most people probably are not in school, but it's about managing those risks. and not sort of overdoing it, overstepping the mark. So for example, in crypto, you could go, oh, I'm going to put all of my generational wealth into crypto. That's irresponsible, right? And little Drew sort of had to understand that and progress through. Anyway, Amazon FBA went pretty well. We were doing quite a large volume, a couple hundred a month of massage guns on Amazon for Australia, which is large numbers considering Australia's population is 10% that of the US. And from there, Amazon decided to change its regulations and 100 massage guns rocked up at my house. That was possibly it was definitely a massive setback. And from there, it really became clear to me that Amazon's margins and overheads worked well for ticket items that you were able to have a massive gross margin, but due to Amazon's fees, it resulted in a small net margin. Anyway, moving on to Shopify, I then used those skills we learned in PPC advertising on Amazon into Shopify. And then from Shopify, from the Shopify store we developed, some clients reached out to myself, and they're still clients, and said, hey, Drew, we love what you're doing. And as I graduated school, they became two of my first clients in the agency. And from there, we've scaled with the same amount of just insane passion. I know I skipped over those last parts. There were some massive struggles in Shopify and in Amazon, but I'll just make it short and sharp. And Shopify and Amazon is sort of where the interest cultivated. And hence, obviously, the agency right now is called the Cultivator.
Okay, so one thing that we didn't clarify, can you tell the audience exactly what you do? What type of business do you have?
Totally. So the Cultivator right now is a marketing agency. And we started off with the e-commerce. So we started off scaling e-commerce brands that were selling products online. And then we developed systems and funnels, we still do, for those businesses to get a better conversion rate, more sales, and ultimately, of course, more money. From there, we were doing very decent volume, and these people owning the stores, our clients, were referring us to some of their friends, but their friends didn't necessarily all own e-commerce brands. So they possibly owned lead-based businesses as well. But since we were generating leads for our own agency, we now have two wings, which we repurposed a team for. So we do e-commerce sales, so for products, but also lead-based businesses such as clinics, appointment-based systems, restaurants. So we generate leads for them. So at this point in time, we have two wings, and we have teams for each specific department, which works really well for word of mouth, especially if a business doesn't necessarily know what its core offer is. And yeah, that is pretty much how we were able to generate that 4 million AUD for clients, because the word of mouth is super, super strong. And that's why we focus on relationships. And by referring up to some of our larger clients that we've worked with, we were able to generate a really good relationship and obviously generate them fantastic results. I hope that clarifies your question there.
It does.
It did. Yeah, it did. And what I want to also ask Drew, because success, like you said, comes with some failures as well. Could you just highlight maybe a few of your failures? Because we don't want audience to think that, hey, I started this and I was successful the whole time and I wound up making all of this revenue for my clients. Could you talk about maybe just a few of your failures?
Well, I must say that that massage gun saga was definitely a massive failure. At that point, I was living at my parents' place, and we had 100 massage guns rock up, and I definitely had to plan and try and work out how to get rid of those 100 massage guns. And that set me back. I think the order value of that was about $4,500. So it wasn't that terrible, but it still was pretty disastrous in the sense that I had to make that money back, right? And from there, my mindset purely had to be, let's be flexible and work with what we have. Because if you're trying to be you can be optimistic. That's great. Being optimistic sort of keeps you focused on your goals, right? Being optimistic is focusing on the optimism and the goals. But you also got to be realistic, because you can't go, oh, that's fine, we'll just move on. Yes, you can do that, but also being flexible with the situation in the sense that I had to go, all right, well, let me backtrack a minute. I used to use Facebook Marketplace to sell these collectible items. So I utilized Facebook Marketplace again to sell these massage guns. And I had to, I suppose an element of that was swallowing my pride, because I spent so much time in developing the Amazon FBA system. And I told all my friends, and it was going well and everything like that. And then these 100 massage guns rocked up at our house, and I had to go, oh, hang on a minute. I got to admit that this didn't work. And I got to just back myself and go, we just got to move. We just got to move and make the most of this situation. Had to tell my friends that it was a failure. That's tough, because when you have people backing you and going, and those friends probably told their other friends, and it definitely feels tough to to admit to failure, but you just have to do it. And that's what I had to do. And I did manage to sell, I think, about 88 of the massage guns. And then after I was generating good money from additional stores and this agency, then I was like, well, look, probably don't need to be selling these massage guns. We can just give them away for free to my friends or something. So that was definitely the process to recover from that failure in particular.
It was a big failure, but at least you did recover. And so we may have listeners that do not know what e-commerce is. Can you explain what exactly is e-commerce?
Totally. So e-commerce is essentially any time you buy something from anywhere that involves the internet. Chances are that is the definition of e-commerce. It's and then commerce. We do manage a lot of brick and mortar stores as well. So in the sense that a brick and mortar store might have a POS system, so that's point of sale, so that computer they type on when they check out. And they also would have an online presence because, quite frankly, to compete with larger businesses like Amazon, like Temu, I know Temu's not in the US right now because of some other issues, but to compete with those businesses, you got to sort of have traffic in addition to your walk-in traffic. And that is obviously what we pitch to businesses because, and then obviously help them scale on that. For example, we have a vineyard and the vineyard has an in-person cellar door. The vineyard also has a wine club, but they need traffic from online as well to actually hear about them, right? You can't sell a secret and they can't expect a little cellar door in a very remote, relatively remote country road in Australia to just receive walk-in traffic. I suppose it's a bit like, Napa Valley in California. Is that, have you guys heard of Napa Valley? Yeah. In my opinion, Napa Valley has a significant amount more traffic because California has the same population as the entirety of Australia. So that's why we have to work harder in promoting these businesses that are sort of out of the way in Australia online because they need that additional traffic in addition to their physical walk-ins.
Okay, so if we have a business owner listening, right?
Yeah.
They might be in like a little small rural town and they may have products. Can you tell them one or two ways that you can use to increase their sales?
All right. I love doing this, really. I love sitting down with business owners and brainstorming. So a couple ways that you could improve sales is I would highly recommend to first look at what you sell, find your best sellers, and then pick out your target market for those best sellers. And I know that's sort of a bit fluffy, but the internet's a very big place and a lot bigger than the potential pool of walk-ins. So if you went, let me promote our entire set of products, specifically, let's go for an example, if just like a homewares store in a regional town, there's quite a few of those I've noticed. And if they go, let me promote our entire stock, it would just spend way too much time. And the last thing a business owner wants to do is get overwhelmed by online. The next thing I would do is just sign up for social media a little bit. We don't need to have a massive social media strategy because, quite frankly, a lot of business owners are quite nervous in running social media campaigns. And 100%. And but just having this social media platform allows for a lot more organic engagement, and that's definitely where it would start, the organic engagement for business owners. So you would go, let me grab my bestsellers, let me create a social media account around my business, and then take photos and videos of the bestsellers. There's a cookie shop in my town just down the road here in Australia, and they have spread out from just one little hole in the wall here to the international terminal in our airport. They're now going overseas to Asia, and this is all from selling cookies and cakes, which is extremely low ticket, right? And also just running huge amounts of social media organic posts. Truth be told though, this lady, the bakehouse is called Brookie's Bakehouse. This lady's created a character around herself, right? And very similar to how you're doing on podcasts, have created this personality around her business as well. But that would be where I first start with a business owner talking about that. The other thing is, if you have a website, if a regional store has a website, which I highly recommend you do because no one's going to find you on Google if you don't have a website, is to install Microsoft Clarity on this website. Now, that might be a little bit confusing, but if a business owner doesn't know what their website's doing, Microsoft Clarity will tell you. It records everything on your website. It's free. And it also it tells the business owner specifically where people are clicking. So then a business owner can go, let me actually focus on this part of the website first, or change this button's not working. And the last thing I would do is definitely get a Google My Business profile. Ensure the Google My Business profile is set up. Ensure that the profile is updated with your opening hours, updated with your website, your social media, your contact information. And if you require bookings or reservations, you could also update that in your Google My Business profile. All of the suggestions I've just said are free, apart from the website, which obviously costs a little bit of money to host. But I would definitely recommend those 4 steps for a business owner to start with.
That was pretty valuable. Drew.
Yes.
Yeah, you gave a lot of good information, because a lot of business owners, especially maybe like if they're a little older, like we are, like shy away from social media.
Totally.
You know, they may or may not have a website. We may not do social media, but you gave some amazing tips, like just with organic postings and
That's organic growth too,
Right.
which is very key.
I must add that the amount of assistance that you can get online is incredible, especially for such a low amount of money. And if anyone here has access to ChatGPT, anyone listening, ChatGPT or DeepSeek even, just query them about how you can grow organically. And especially the ChatGPT Plus, so the ChatGPT 4.0, gives fantastic suggestions on just a little bit of baseline strategy. And it's about sticking with it, because organic growth doesn't come quickly. Paid growth comes quickly, right? Paid ads comes very quickly, but that's a lot more technical than just starting out with organic growth. And honestly, I'm happy to chat to anyone if they're curious, or we have a bunch of free calls with people just literally brainstorming this. And the reason why is business owners probably can't see the value in very technical stuff up front, and need to get, and I understand this because I've run businesses, they need the proof is in the pudding, right? And the biggest benefit for a business owner is the money and the profit. So having a massive period of expenses in terms of paid ads is why I don't recommend to start with it first.
Okay, all right. Do you?
So, well, I do, because you mentioned something about money, right? About starting a business, money. So what do you do what advice would you give if you're trying to start a business, right? But you have zero capital to start with, but you want to start one, but you don't have any money. So what advice would you give somebody like that?
And that's a lot of people in the U.S. Drew. Want to start a business, but don't have the cash.
Don't have the capital.
Look, I'm very honest when it comes to starting businesses and the amount of capital you need. A business isn't ever risk-free. There's always risks associated. And I'm not saying it's like going to Vegas, but you can definitely mitigate the risks 100%. But if you wanted to start without any money, people ask me this all the time, right? And I try and give different answers a couple of times. I would recommend just trying to start small hustles and going to people and literally saying, hey, what do you need if you can pay me? So for example, right, you could possibly sell things on Facebook Marketplace. You might have an auntie with too many clothes. You could sell her clothes on Depop or eBay, right? You might know a guy down the road who wants to do a garage sale but probably can't be bothered. You might have a spare lawnmower and do lawnmower stuff. I don't know, mow someone's lawn. I have a really good mate, and he's actually starting to be a client now because he's done so well in this. He started a house cleaning business with literally a hose, a pressure washer, and his mum's car. And then he drove around, pressure washed for people. Now he's actually turned that into a business. He's gone and bought his own car. He now has his own place that he's renting. And it's literally as simple as that. You just have to get the cash flow happening somehow. And that's what I did. I didn't get a loan. And if you're going to start a business from scratch with no knowledge, I never recommend you financing it at all. The fact of the matter is I got this collectible thing because it was already eating food, right? And we got the collectibles with it. And then I just watched a bunch of YouTube videos on how to sell on eBay and how to sell on Facebook Marketplace and sold them. Starting on the collectibles, that was virtually like like you said, it had no overheads, no costs aside from once I sold the thing for I think I was selling the little collectibles for about $12 or $15 each. The postage was $2, and then the rest was profit. So that you just got to find ways of making money and just have the cash flow coming in. And then once you've done that, once you have a few $1,000s from your initial earnings, then go to something more systemized like Shopify or like Amazon FBA to then sort of, I wouldn't say automate, because nothing when you start out is automated. It always takes a lot of time. And then from there, create some sort of systemized system, for the lack of a better word, from your previous knowledge that you've generated.
Okay, so Drew, what about for business owners that they don't have a product, but they offer consulting, they offer coaching, but they don't have a physical product? Do you have any recommendations for them?
100%. Yeah. So if they offer consulting or coaching or something with a very specific niche, so like us, we offer e-com growth, obviously, or lead growth. We then provide something called a lead magnet. And in my opinion, lead magnets are one of the most precious tools that could ever exist. And essentially what it is you collect people's information for a free gift. So for example, do you guys know a guy called Grant Cardone? I think he might be a little bit controversial in the US. I don't know, but he's a property investor. He's really, really massive. He has his own private jet, whatever. But even though he's so wealthy, he still offers free webinars. He still offers free tools for people to use before they come into his coaching system. So by doing that, you're able to collect your potential clients' information. Then you're able to target them and nurture them in your conversion funnel, which is obviously from cold, which is not interested clients, hot, which is converted or very, very interested clients, and nurture them with their contact information with more and more value so you can show them the value that you will give them when they're finally paying. Quite frankly, I'm going to be honest with you, podcasts and content like this could very well be a lead magnet. I have a mate in Australia who started his own podcast with also a coaching business that he teaches people how to make money through, it was the same guy, it was the Amazon guy that I was talking about way back. And he's still doing his thing. He's finally moved out of Australia though to pursue other ventures. But he started a podcast to generate interest around people. He brought other individuals on, grabbed potential clients' contact information, and then funneled them down eventually to convert them as clients, right? I highly recommend for a business owner with lead gen or lead-based systems or service systems or consulting to have a look into how to generate and to look at generating themselves lead magnets.
Okay, you have given valuable information to those business owners that have a product and those that don't have a product.
That does services.
Right, but this is a question that people probably want to know in the U.S. for sure because you're 19. Did you get a college degree or are you in college?
Funny you say that. Yeah. No, I haven't. I got I was in the top, I can't remember what percent of school when I graduated. The school system in Australia works a little differently. We graduate at the end of the year. In December, it follows the calendar month. And however, even though I got an ATAR, it was out of 99.95, I got a 97.35. I got a bunch of scholarships to colleges, but those clients came on board. And in my opinion, clients come first. And also, I could see the money, right? And a scholarship wasn't going to give me the course for free as well, right? And I did an evaluation, or just a quick thought, and I saw a bunch of previous friends that have gone to university, we call it here, but college in the US, about the lifestyle that they're having and the lifestyle that I want to have. And I'll be honest with you, the lifestyle that I want to have has not been attained yet. I've been doing a lot of work. It's still been working. I don't have any partying in my life, and that's just something that I don't want to do because it's a waste of time in my opinion. And they're essentially just spending money on clubs, spending money on alcohol, and spending money on their university. And in the other end of the spectrum, I'm losing money on failed ventures and making a bit of money as well. So, I mean, look, I prefer to lose the money on knowledge and learning tools in learning business than losing money on clubs and alcohol and college fees. So that's just honestly my personal opinion. But I think a lot of people these days with the sort of social media content that's getting produced and increasing wealth of billionaires, people are seeing the advantages of not going to college and pursuing a venture of business. But let me tell you, it is tough on the brain because you don't get to spend the amount of time with people and the amount of enjoyable, I wouldn't say enjoyable, but casual, just brain numbing, enjoyable stuff with people. You've got to work. And earning money doesn't come from nothing.
You heard what he said?
Say that one more time.
Which one? Earning money doesn't come from nothing.
Right, say it again.
Earning money doesn't come from nothing.
Okay, that was good. So what I want to, the people that are listening, I want them to see that you don't have to have a college degree to be successful. Because, or money. And honestly, the people who are at the university, you're probably going to be making double or triple what they're going to be making when they graduate, and you're going to be the same age.
Well, no, he's probably going to be way over what they're going to. Because they're going to start out on a job that's probably going to be paying, who knows, Someone might start off with
55 or 60,000.
maybe, but by then
You'll be making that in a month or more. So it just goes to show if you have a talent, if you have a gift, and if you're willing to work hard,
determination.
right, you don't really have to have a degree, and you're proof of that. Basically, like Bill Gates.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Funny you bring up Bill Gates. There's a lot of very wealthy entrepreneurs that have come from not much, and also, quite frankly, it's very hard to be. Tall poppy syndrome exists in Australia. Let me just put it that way. Are you familiar with tall poppy syndrome?
What is it?
Okay, it's essentially the tall poppy syndrome is by definition when a poppy is too tall, you cut it down to make the same height for everything else. And that happens for a lot of, I wouldn't say unsuccessful people, but people who are looking to be more successful. It's a very tough thing to deal with, and for someone who's very, very interested in becoming better, you have to be able to look at people who are more successful than you and try and optimize what they do and where they've been, and sort of put yourself in their shoes to then take that as inspiration and work a little bit harder or a little bit different, and to be sort of where they want to be. You can't take advice from people who aren't where you want to be.
That's another like nugget. Say that one more time.
You can't take advice from people who aren't where you want to be.
That's so right. That's so right. And then before we let him go, you want to ask a question because we're gonna have to do this.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, mine's towards the end, so I'll let you have Mr. Drew.
Well, I'm gonna wrap up. So if you want to ask him, go ahead and ask him.
Okay, so I'm gonna read this to you. This was on your profile.
Yeah.
And I think we need to talk about this just a few minutes because I think it will give people some encouragement. So this is what you have. I grew up hearing stories from my parents and grandparents about fighting for their future when they had nothing. It taught me that success doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't care how old you are, where you're from, or what your resume says. It only cares if you're willing to move. That's the real story. So Drew, that is so powerful. So can you touch on that just a little bit to give people some encouragement?
Sure. Well, look, it depends how deep you want to go. I don't usually talk about this, but I will. And I don't like using previous experience. I don't like using other people's success as my own success, if you understand what I mean. And quite frankly, yeah, it's up to me to make my destiny, and it's not necessarily about what my relatives have. But I will explain it to you. On my mum's side, her father's family and her father, they actually escaped from a Nazi concentration camp. And they were running for quite a while. And then when the war was almost at the end or ended, hard to say, they did move to Australia. And from there, they had an extreme amount of persistence. In fact, just before the war started, and obviously before they were in concentration camps, they were a very wealthy family in Slovenia. They actually had butlers and maids, but then when the war happened, quite frankly, a lot of people were displaced and they had to keep running for quite a while, and then they came to Australia with absolutely nothing. So it was a significant change from what they were used to, and that, I would say, is a massive, I wouldn't say failure, but you have to swallow your pride, right? You're used to this life of maids and assistants and, for lack of a better word, servants, right? And then they just had nothing. And in fact, they actually had to build a railway across Australia in the desert. And that was very, very tough. And it's definitely instilled in me the sense that I don't want to let them down, because they went through all of that to live. And now I'm here with fresh running water and food and money, and just can't let them down. And that's why that's why it's been instilled in me to just be nice to people and not let them down. On Dad's side, his family grew up in a country town in Australia, and his father really, really just wanted to make money, pretty much. And he didn't stop working for a very long time, and spent a lot of time trying to be the best. And a story that he's told me is that even if your job is to take the trash out, to take the paper, I forgot what the word he uses, but the paper trash out, just got to be the best you can be at that, because people will even if it might not be on the first day or the second or the fifth, people will recognize that you are trying your best and doing the best you can. It's just a matter of time. And yeah, so both sides obviously coincided in a town called Townsville in Australia. How funny. Then I'm here. So look, from both of those sides, it's just grit and determination. And without that, there wouldn't be many successful people in the world at all. That's why we're so different. And, everyone has to push to be the best they can.
I like that. Grit and determination.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it is.
That's powerful.
I'll share them with you now.
Okay. All right. Well, Drew, we want to hold you to us longer, but if you had to give 3 nuggets of advice to someone, what would those 3 nuggets of advice would be to help them succeed?
That's a great question. This is tough because it's very exclusive, and there's so many things that I could say. And bear in mind, I haven't prepared for this question at all. I would say make sure you have a goal that you can work towards. And it's a very, very distinct goal that might not be attainable now or tomorrow, but you have an idea of how to get there. And that goal should be something that you would be proud of as well. Then from that goal, backtrack and work out how you can achieve that through possible means that obviously aren't illegal and obviously are within reason. But then focus 100% on doing that. Try your best to, it's hard to say, I'm very bad at multitasking, so I have to focus on things, but with a very multifaceted life that some people have, it might not be possible to multitask. So look, 1 is grab a goal that you need to focus on. 2 is don't give up. This is so cliche. Don't give up when people say that you're doing bad things. No, don't give up when people say that you're not successful yet. And make sure you are focused on that goal. And I think this one goal should be like positioned at the top of everything you do. In fact, behind the camera, I have on the wall, back yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. Like right there behind the camera on the wall at the top. Because you just have to back yourself and don't give up. Having said that though, I think this should be number 3, that if you need to be able to analyze what you're doing, you need to be able to understand what you're doing, understand the money that's coming in and going out, understand the relationships that you have, or understand the weight that you're gaining or weight that you're losing, or the muscle you're gaining and losing, and then work, like, you just need to ensure that you're on top of things that are happening. Because with such a fast-paced life and such a fast-paced world it is now with AI and social media and all this, definitely some metrics and some focus points of your life can definitely run away very quickly. And being able to stay on top of the money, ensure your accounting's correct, or ensure that your weight is within check, is definitely something that you have to stay on top of. And I would like to tie it back to our family that immigrated to Australia. They had to make sure they had to make sure they knew where everyone else was, right? Otherwise they'd lose them in the boat or in the immigration area or in the railway. They had to make sure, fact, that can't remember how many grates it is, or even if there is any grate. I'll have to get back to you on that. But the fellow that was building the train track, he made physical ledgers of all the money that was coming in and going out, because he literally started from zero, or possibly even less than zero, right? He didn't even have a house. And then working on that railway, he created ledgers of the incomes and expenses that they were having to then at least be able to afford food and accommodation, right? So that's definitely number 3, to be able to understand what is occurring within your small circle of your life.
That was good. Okay, Drew, this was powerful, impactful, and because you're 19, it's more impactful because you know more than some of us that are way older than you are. So thanks for sharing your wisdom. And if someone wants to reach out to you, can you give and provide how you can be found?
Look, if someone wants to reach out, I'm happy to talk on whatever platform suits you. Having said that though, my Instagram is by Drew C. So it's at BY Drew, D-R-E-W-C, the letter C. Our website is thecultivator.co. No M. thecultivator.co. That's our website. You'll see a very funny video of me on there, just like this, talking about what we do. And those are probably the best platforms. I also have Twitter. I also have Facebook, but they're all the same handle as the Instagram. So that's pretty much it all from me. I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear you guys.
Yes. Yes. And in audience, if you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe so you can get more fresh content every week.
Yes.
So
and if you want to make money for your business, contact Drew. He just gave you the handles. Thanks again for watching.
All right. Thanks, Drew.
Thank you.